When we talk about being good, we're referring to qualities that embody the highest aspirations of human nature: compassion, kindness, honesty, integrity, empathy, and generosity. These qualities represent the ideals that many of us are taught to value from a young age. We grow up learning that kindness is a virtue, that helping others is noble, and that honesty is the best policy. However, as we step into the real world, we often encounter a starkly different reality. We begin to see that acts of kindness, no matter how genuine, can be met with doubt and skepticism. We witness how goodness is sometimes viewed not as a strength, but as a vulnerability, or even a facade hiding ulterior motives. People who choose to act selflessly or compassionately are questioned, and their intentions scrutinized. What should be natural and appreciated has become a source of suspicion. This doubt around goodness can be traced to the way society has evolved. In our fast-paced, competitive world, self-interest and ambition are often seen as essential qualities for success. People are conditioned to prioritize their own advancement and are taught that everyone is motivated by self-interest. In workplaces, for example, employees are often encouraged to adopt a me-first mentality, striving for promotions and recognitions, sometimes at the expense of others. Acts of kindness or support are sometimes viewed as strategic maneuvers, attempts to curry favor or build influence rather than genuine expressions of care. In such an environment, being good becomes countercultural, a trait that doesn't fit within the norms of competitiveness and self-promotion that dominate many spaces. Furthermore, we are constantly exposed to stories of betrayal and manipulation, especially in media and popular culture. Scandals involving leaders, celebrities, and people in positions of power reinforce the idea that too good to be true is often just that, an illusion. We see examples of people who appear charitable or compassionate on the surface, only for their real motives to come to light. These public narratives shape our views, leading us to assume that those who are outwardly good must be hiding something or acting out of self-interest. We become conditioned to question everyone's motives, wondering what people are really after. As a result, people who genuinely want to do good, who act with integrity and kindness, face a wall of suspicion. Their goodness is questioned not because they've done anything to warrant it, but because society has taught us to distrust what appears pure or selfless. In relationships, this suspicion can create an emotional barrier that prevents authentic connections from forming. When someone reaches out with kindness, whether it's offering support during a difficult time, lending a hand, or simply being a dependable friend, the recipient might hesitate, wondering if there's a catch or if they'll owe something in return. This hesitation is often a defense mechanism born from past experiences of betrayal or manipulation. If someone has been hurt or taken advantage of before, they may struggle to believe in the possibility of genuine kindness. Acts of generosity or compassion make them feel vulnerable, forcing them to open themselves up and risk being let down. This creates a painful paradox where people desire connection and support, but are too wary to fully accept it when it comes their way. Over time, this environment of doubt and suspicion doesn't just affect the receivers of kindness, it deeply impacts those who try to offer it. People who make an effort to live with compassion, honesty, and integrity often encounter discouragement, feeling as though their efforts are misunderstood or undervalued. When others doubt their motives or interpret their kindness as manipulation, it creates an emotional burden that can be hard to bear. Imagine constantly having your sincerity questioned or having people assume that your good intentions hide some selfish motive. This experience can be disheartening, making even the most caring individuals question whether it's worth it to continue. They may begin to wonder if their efforts are in vain, or if it would be easier to conform to a less compassionate way of being. In a world where kindness is met with skepticism, It takes immense strength to persist in being good. At the same time, social media and digital culture have changed the way people express and perceive goodness. Platforms like Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook offer a stage for people to share their lives, including their acts of kindness. On one hand, this can be a positive influence as it spreads awareness of charitable causes and encourages people to be more generous. But on the other hand, the public display of good deeds can sometimes come across as self-serving, especially when people are overly focused on how their actions appear to others. When people broadcast their good deeds for likes, followers, or validation, it can feel less like genuine compassion and more like a performance. This performative aspect of goodness is especially common in an era of influencers and personal branding, where even kindness is often used as a tool for self-promotion. When people witness these public displays, it can feed the assumption that goodness is rarely genuine, that there's always a hidden agenda. This cultural suspicion doesn't just influence how we perceive others, it also changes how we view ourselves. People start to feel that being genuinely good might make them look weak or naive. In a world that often rewards cynicism and competitiveness, being kind can feel like swimming against the current. Some may feel pressured to hide their kindness, fearing that it will make them targets or that others will see them as too soft. This pressure can lead people to suppress their natural instincts for compassion, choosing instead to adopt a tougher, more self-focused persona that aligns with societal expectations. Over time, this internal conflict between the desire to be good and the fear of appearing naive can cause people to feel disconnected from their own values. And yet, despite all this skepticism, goodness remains one of the most powerful forces for positive change. Acts of kindness, no matter how doubted, have a lasting impact. Even when people question your motives, the kindness itself doesn't disappear. It plants a seed, a memory that stays with them. The person who experiences a moment of genuine care, even if they doubted initially, may recall it later and be inspired to show kindness to someone else. The influence of goodness is subtle but profound. It creates a ripple effect that spreads far beyond the initial act. One kind gesture, one supportive word, one compassionate choice can start a chain reaction, encouraging others to be more understanding, empathetic, and giving. Choosing to be good, even when it's questioned or misunderstood, is not an act of weakness, it's an act of resilience and courage. It takes inner strength to hold on to one's values in a world that often doesn't reward them. Those who continue to show kindness despite the doubts of others are making a conscious decision to be true to themselves. They understand that goodness has intrinsic value, that it's worthwhile even when no one else acknowledges it. In this sense, choosing to remain good in a cynical world is an act of quiet defiance. It's a choice to live with integrity, regardless of how others perceive it. In the end, the decision to be good in a world that questions it is perhaps one of the most powerful choices a person can make. It's a commitment to hold on to humanity and compassion, to believe in the possibility of a kinder world, even if it's not immediately reciprocated. Those who choose this path may not always be understood or appreciated, but their influence runs deeper than they might realize. By embodying goodness, they set an example that others can see and follow. They show that it's possible to live with compassion, even in a society that often values self-interest above all else. And perhaps over time, this example can begin to change the world one act of kindness at a time. In the grand scheme, goodness is not a mistake. It is the foundation upon which a better society can be built. A world that doubts goodness may feel safer in the short term, but it loses out on the deeper, more meaningful connections that only come from trust and compassion. By choosing to be good, even in the face of doubt, we keep alive the hope for a world that is built on kindness, empathy, and genuine connection. We remind people that goodness is real and that Even when questioned, it remains the most valuable choice one can make. And if each of us chooses to believe in goodness, to offer it freely without expecting anything in return, we can start to shift the culture from one of doubt to one of trust, from cynicism to compassion, from suspicion to understanding.